well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter, of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so, because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote.
But like what I'm saying is, what are you going to do about the fact that millions of people...
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending... They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
There is no evidence
this is not going to end well.
5 states have had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he knows the outcome.
You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this, Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court, with a Justice Barrett, will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this, because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, when you have 80 million ballots sending and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already there's been
so now
fraud.
Mail service delivers 185 million pieces of mail a day.
In 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the Vice President, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election,
urging them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that mean,
from a common sense,
does that mean you're
I'll tell
going
you
to
what
tell your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're
And what are
sending
you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
Well, Daytona, that was something to behold of a presidential debate. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, toe-to-toe, no holds barred, interrupting each other almost constantly. Poor Chris Wallace, who had to jump in there so often. Covered a lot of topics, but this was something the American voter has not really seen before.
Lots of personal attacks, something that we have predicted. Most of the debate experts predicted that there was going to be a lot of back and forth between Joe Biden and President Trump, and at certain points it seemed difficult for Chris Wallace to kind of hone that in. But exciting.
That's right, Daytona. Definitely Fox News Sunday's Chris Wallace had a very difficult time trying to rein in President Trump, give Vice President Joe Biden enough time. So this is really interesting. Anyway, we want to get reaction now from reporters in Cleveland. Fox News multimedia reporter and Biden campaign embed Madeline Rivera has been following Joe Biden for the last year and a half. And we want to go to her right now and just get her thoughts on if Joe Biden, what the Biden campaign is saying. But let's go to her right now. 1 second. Maddie, hey, tell us what you think the Biden campaign will take out of this. What are they going to be especially messaging on in the days following?
Well, first of all, it was a very contentious debate, and as you mentioned, it was so difficult for some of these candidates to really get their points across, I think, because they were just talking over each other, and moderator Chris Wallace obviously had a tough time trying to rein in the two. I think the Biden campaign will just continue to fact-check Trump, depending on what he has said throughout the course of the debate. I haven't gotten a chance to actually look through some of the emails. They were sending out some emails throughout the course of the debate, kind of doing some real-time fact-checking. I haven't been able to get a chance to actually read that because I was watching the debate itself, but I'm sure that the Biden campaign will be addressing some of the comments and remarks that Trump has made throughout the evening over the coming days, Andrew.
And Maddie, you know, we heard from Biden, he had a number of really punchy lines that we haven't really heard from him before, trying to go toe-to-toe with the president's personal attacks as well. We heard Joe Biden call Donald Trump the worst president America has ever had. He called him a racist. But on the other hand, President Trump went after especially Joe Biden's son, Hunter. That's something voters really haven't seen before, is Joe Biden really on the attack. Was that something you noticed that was new?
It's something that I actually have not seen before, and I've obviously, as you mentioned, covered Biden over the last year and a half. I've seen his performances throughout several debates, and this is undoubtedly, I think, one of the harshest that he's ever been when it comes to attacking his opponent. You know, it's interesting because before this debate happened, maybe about a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, I'm not even quite sure of the timeline, Biden said during a virtual fundraiser that he didn't want to get baited into a brawl with Donald Trump, and I'm not sure if he accomplished that tonight, Andrew. And you brought up Hunter Biden. That's an issue that Biden tends to get sensitive about.